Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. Today is all about recycling and repurposing. So I have a canvas here that I have done a workshop on and used as a demo. It's not quite up to the level I want to finish off on, and it's not a piece that I really want to use again. So I'm going to use this canvas again. Now the alternative, the thing that you could do is just gesso over it. I have already done one layer and you can see it's sort of starting to recede to the back, and just maybe another 2 or 3 layers of gesso will get the picture and the canvas back to pure white. But what I thought I'd do is I'd like to play a bit with some texturing. So what we'll do is we'll use like a tissue to introduced over the gesso, and then we'll be playing with some watercolor into that paper. So we'll finish that off by varnishing it also, and sealing and varnishing it also, that that watercolor will truly stay in there. So the first thing to do is just get the background gessoed up a bit. So just being quite liberal, because the tissue paper which I'll be using, which looks like this. It's just normal sort of wrapping tissue paper. You could also use like napkins that like takeaway napkins, or serviettes, anything like that. You're welcome to use. I'm just using a gesso. This one is a Montmartre product. I'm not sponsored by Montmartre, but I do like their products for my student type work. So you'll find me using their products quite a lot. So I'm just introducing a bit of texture to the sort of center area of the canvas, sort of looking at, a beautiful swirl across the front, more of an abstract style. So I'm being quite loose with my strokes. I do like textured artworks anyway. I'm a very tangible artist, so I always want to like touch everything. So I'm just coming in, adding a liberal layer of gesso everywhere. I just don't want to have to see that white, the light blue color from my previous artwork. So I'm just coming in, making sure that's all covered, and then I'll be introducing that tissue onto this really ample, or very generously covered canvas. So I'm keeping my strokes as I'm painting the gesso really loose and thick, so that the paper will have something to stick to. I do not want to paint over the paper at this stage because I want the watercolors to really have something to absorb into and to become part of the artwork. So I'm going to sort of go with a sort of a solid piece. So I'm going to cover my canvas. So just remember, this is now sticking onto the gesso. I'm allowing it to have a few wrinkles. I do like that. And I'm just going to pull it in a little bit so that it's giving me this like really old marble-like feel. So it's just going in, and it's feeling really, how you get that really sort of old flowing marble walls and pillars. It does feel like that to me. So that is going to be beautiful. I'm going to just tear off the edge of the paper. I've missed a bit here, so I might just pull that into there. Just making sure that I've pulled it in so that it's got coverage right up to the edge. Tearing off the edge of the tissue as I'm going, and allowing that paper just to sit on top of the gesso. So again, I'm just pulling off anything extra. What I'm going to use now is just a little bit of time just to push that paper into the gesso, so I've got nothing sticking up. If anything's sticking up, I'm just going to rip it off. Just get rid of anything that's loose. So you're basically creating a paper surface on a canvas, and I'm just rolling, the surface is still got a little bit of mobility to it, so I'm just rolling it just gently. You may find you rip it a little bit, and that's okay, but it's just giving me the feel of marble. So the paper will stretch a bit just because of the glue in it and being exposed to this moisture. And I'm just gonna let it sit there for a bit. So the idea is now, with it still wet, you could come in now and do some beautiful watercolor effects. So I might use some very light colors initially, just to give the background a lovely, just coming in with watercolor, and I'm just painting into that, just beautifully on the surface. Not a hard stroke at all, because the tissue is still very fragile, and I'm just introducing just these. The aim of this piece is to be more abstract, so I'm going to really introduce a range of colors, and I'm going to try to make it feel like it was more of a flow than an intentional sort of so I don't want like straight lines, too many straight lines. I just want it to be really flowing. I might introduce a bit of pink as well. Using some watercolors that are from the tube. So just going to get, I like to water my colors a bit from the water bottle. There we go. So oops, already messed a little bit. So just introduce that, the other colors that you want in your piece. Now, you know, you could actually just pour it on and just like influence where the runs are. What I'm liking about this is that there is this sort of deeper pigment going into the crevices. So I do want to encourage that. It's just a very gentle sort of feel to the piece. So just remember that the watercolors basically and only absorb into the paper. So you're basically painting on tissue. And I think I would like to introduce just a little bit of brightness. Might like to see just a drop of yellow happening in there, just to give it that little bit of lift. Just slightly in between, just drop it in. There we go. Now yellow and blue, now the color I have here is like an aquamarine, but it will pick up on the blue, will become more green, so I don't want to like touch into my colors too much. I'm going to give it just the paper just a little bit of a water spray, and that just gives me a bit more working time. And I'm going to bring in just a drop more of these beautiful rich colors. So sort of working on the pink color a little bit, just introducing a little bit of depth there. Just here and there. I'm not going to try to do too much at this point. You might find that at the point where the artwork becomes a little bit more, you know, at its more final stages where I'm painting the final picture. This is more just about creating a beautiful background to do an artwork on. There we go. So again, I'm going to find the pink. So just go between your colors until you've done as much of the background as you want to. You don't have to cover the whole painting with background color. Just really do as much as you want to. Sometimes having a bit of white can add such vibrancy to an artwork anyway. All I want to do is not have straight pieces or, you know, like lines. I want it to feel a little bit more organic. It's almost like you're mark making with paints straight away. So, you know, think of perhaps abstract blossoms that you might be painting. At this stage, the tissue is still very fragile, so the minute you start manipulating too much, you'll find that it might tear. That is not a bad thing, but you don't want to encourage it where you don't need to. So just go with the flow and don't overwork it. So just really want to you can also use a little bit of you know, flicking. So I'm going to just introduce little taps of color here and there. The whole idea of like an abstract piece is really just allowing a little bit of spontaneity. So, you know, play with the shapes, the patterns, the colors. Let that sort of guide your process. I'm just going to come in with a bit of a darker color here. Again, I don't want straight lines, so I'm going to try and smooth those edges to be a little bit more sort of gentle and more organic. Sort of imagine in my mind what this could be. It could be like this beautiful marble wall that this artwork is trailing, or the flowers are sort of cascading on. So just really playing with that feel. The more layers of watercolor you put on, the deeper those colors that you're putting on top of will come, and they'll start fusing with the top and the bottom layer. I don't want to do too much of this. And just a drop there. So I want to keep this really, really gentle. I might just get some more flicks happening here with the blue. It's actually an aqua. So we'll leave this to dry for a little bit. It'll probably take a day or two to dry. I'm going to really try to keep this quite gentle and smooth. I might actually... I just want to reinforce these little blossoms just a bit more. So I'm going in with a round paintbrush, deepening up the colors. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of imagine painting a rose. So the sort of method of painting a rose you can play with is like just like little half moon swirls just alongside each other with a little bit of white space in between. So just get those painted in. They will smudge and run, which is actually what I'm after. So again, I'm going to just do one here, just those sort of round shapes around this edge, thickening them up as it's picking up some body around the bottom. So again, just a nice gentle colors. So that's the nice thing with watercolors. You can actually have them sitting in a tray. I have probably about 5 trays like this with the different colors. And when I use them, I just go back in on the ones that have been dried, and they make for a really easy way to quickly introduce extra color. No washing up needed of the trays. So it's a great way to sort of save paint. I know that when I do classes, we go through heaps and heaps of paint because I need like those containers again that the students are using. But when you're working in your own gallery, like your own studio at home, you can certainly save those paints. So there are ways to save paints, and I'll have another workshop where we talk about how you might want to put your paints away just to save them for the next time. So I'm using a really just keep on reintroducing those colors a little bit just to provide that strength. So just coming in really loosely, nice and getting the feel of roses cascading down, perhaps a wall. Again, those tissues are really quite damp still from the gesso underneath. So don't apply too much pressure as you're painting your roses. There we go. I might just do a second one here. There we go. So I'll leave that to dry. There will be a little bit of, actually I'm going to just add a bit of green, pretending to be like the vine. And I might integrate it a little bit with this blue. So I've got my next board here. And I'm just going to introduce like this feeling of leaves just around in the vicinity of the blossoms. And again, I'm not going to really worry that they're not perfect, even symmetrical. What they are a reminder or the essence of having those leaves there. Now just be careful around pink and green. You can easily end up with a mud color, so I'm trying not to paint very with abrupt brush strokes, and it's more like I'm introducing the green into the paper, the tissue paper underneath. I'm not really aiming to paint it, with heavy brush strokes. And we'll just I do want this blue to almost feel like it was emerging from the green. Just keeping my leaf shapes sort of nice and loose as well. So just going to bring in a touch of deeper color into those leaves. This is truly like the wet on wet technique. Being the abstract thought of the picture, I'm not really going to chase the realistic aspect of it, but I do want to get like an extraction of the sort of the colors that you might see in something like this. So I've got like an olive green I've just brought into that. Excellent. So I might just have some twirlies. Some vines. Keeping it really, really more of a suggestion, because everything's wet, it's gonna like travel, and that's really the magic of it all, is having that looseness. There we go. So I'm going to leave this to dry, and I will post a picture of the completed work with the video, so that you know what we're aiming for. But it was great to have you here and participate in the workshop with me. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Chat soon. Bye.